Fellow Crimsonians, welcome. We're just coming to St Pancras International, and today we're going to be walking in the footsteps of Charles Dickens, going from where he used to live, his house in Dorothy Street in London, all the way to one of his favourite watering holes. So let's go and walk in the footsteps of Charles Dickens, shall we? So this house, bit of history behind this house on Bernard Street. If you look at the blue plaque on the wall, the creator of Peter Pan. So James Matthew Barry lived on this site 1885 to 1888. A little after Dickens, as Dickens died in 1870. So walking along Marchmont Street on our way from St Pancras Station to Dorothy Street, it's always important to look up, because there, that building across the street, that one centre of screen, is the building where comedy carry-on actor, comedy legend Kenneth Williams lived from 1935 to 1956. It used to be a barber shop that his dad ran, but Kenneth Williams lived there for a period of time. In there, dry cleaners now, I think. Oh no, dry cleaners next door. Oh, it's more of a hairstylist now, but yeah, Kenneth Williams from the Carry On films lived there. Refreshing beverage locked in. Let's go and get a double espresso, shall we? Before becoming a guest in Mr. Dickens' abode. Double espresso, standard operating procedure for this time of day. Here we are on Dorothy Street, and if you're eagle-eyed, over on that left side, across the other side of the street, there's a white sign, and that is where Charles Dickens lived when he lived in London. Also used as a movie location snippet, bit of trivia, movie trivia, when Clint Eastwood directed, I think it was called Afterlife with Matt Damon. I was here on this side of the street, the trailers were pulled up in front of the building, and they filmed a section of that film inside there. But here we are on Dorothy Street, Dickens' house. Now, a very important piece of information. A mistake a lot of people or tourists make when they're coming here and not necessarily going inside the property is taking a selfie with the wrong building behind them, because that one there is the gift shop. Charles Dickens actually lived in this building next door, but for matters of convenience you go through and purchase your ticket on the other side in the other building, the adjacent building, so you can then see and explore the original house in full. It's an easy mistake to make from outside. I've seen many a people in the past getting their selfie with the Dickens Museum sign in the background, assuming that that is Dickens' house. But that, I assure you, is number 49, and Dickens lived at number 48. And if we look at the blue plaque, it's validated. So yeah, if you come here, make sure, obviously go in the gift shop to buy a ticket, but then you'll end up in this one. But if you want a selfie outside, number 48. Yeah, it's one of those things, unfortunately, like Big Ben. People assume that the whole thing, like the whole tower, is Big Ben, but it's not. It's the 13.5-ton bell that's in the clock tower. That is officially Big Ben. That's right, the clock tower that you know as Big Ben in the Palace of Westminster is actually called the Elizabeth Tower. Maybe a lot of you know that already, I'm sure you do, but I thought I'd mention it anyway, just out of interest. So it was renamed in 2012 to honour Queen Elizabeth II's Diamond Jubilee. It was previously known as the Clock Tower. I don't know about you, but thinking about going inside. Who wants to go into Dickens' house? Also, another little fun fact before we go inside, the clock face on Big Ben, the Roman numeral X, which is 10, isn't actually an X, it's an F. Honestly, go and look at it or look up photographs. It's true. The designer, Augustus Pugin, he preferred the more Gothic aesthetic, so used an F, saying that the Roman X was too traditional. That's right, Augustus Pugin was a Gothic revivalist. So yeah, check that out. I'll try and put some images here, but definitely an F and not an X. Right, let's go in. No more stalling for time. Let's go into Dickens's house. Number 48. Wonder if he ever took this way down. It's probably for where the servants would receive deliveries, food, vegetables, meats, cheeses. He would have come through here. Mr. Dickens, are you home, sir?
Because we're going to receive birds from you this afternoon.
I
think we should be
yes, especially with the.
We are in. Dickens moved here with his wife Catherine and their first child in 1837, the year Queen Victoria began her reign. Dickens arrived at Doughty Street a little known young writer. When he and his growing family left almost 3 years later, he was an international superstar, having written the Pickwick Papers, Oliver Twist and Nicholas Nickleby. Dickens later wrote that 48 Doughty Street had seemed to him a frightfully first-class family mansion, involving awful responsibilities. During their residence at 48 Doughty Street, 1837 to 1839, Catherine Dickens was newly married to Charles Dickens and navigating the pressures of his rapidly rising literary fame, frequent social gatherings, and a growing household. The period was overshadowed by the sudden death of her younger sister Mary Hogarth in 1837, who died in the home at just 17, devastating Dickens in particular, as he idolised her memory and wore her ring for years. Catherine's own grief was compounded by the emotional intensity Dickens directed toward Mary, which later fueled rumours, never proven, that his attachment may have been romantic or even suggestive of an affair. While most historians treat these claims cautiously, they highlight the strain such dynamics likely placed on Catherine during their time in the house. Dickens' daughter Katie was an artist, studying at Bedford College from the age of 12 and exhibiting at the Royal Academy. Determined to be financially independent from her father and to escape hostilities after her parents' separation, she married pre-Raphaelite artist Collins, brother of Dickens' friend Wilkie. Her second marriage was to Italian artist Perugini. She never exhibited under the Dickens name, preferring to stand on her own merit. Check this out. This is really stepping back in history. Look at that. So where we were looking down from outside, we were stood there, looking down to where the laundry was done, obviously. Storage perhaps over there. Oh yeah, laundry day was really hard work. It says here, can you help me, a new housemaid, learn how to do it? You'll find all you need to know in the activity sheet on the table. So there's fun stuff to do as well that they've included in this tour, in this visit. Look at that china. Yeah, the kitchen, the hub of all activity below stairs. I believe the meals were made here, managed by Catherine Dickens, the lady of the house, but the work that went into it was done by the cook, supported by other servants as needed. She would sleep down here, I think, warming herself by the dying fire. What a cosy room this is as well. Supplies probably kept down here. Yeah, so supply cupboards, extra storage. And if we looky here, look at that. Wow. The mesh on the window is not going to allow us to look through them, unfortunately. But if we can refocus, it goes back probably to a coal storage, coal hole, where coal would be stored back in Dickens' time. Go further through into the recesses of Charles Dickens' property. This is at the back of the property now. Ah, what's that say on the wall? Let's do a little bit of a zoom in. Oh, Dickens' wine cellar. The wine cellar used by Charles Dickens during his time at Dorothy Street has been restored and refitted with the financial assistance of National Wine Merchants Peter Dominic. So it's quite difficult for me to read it here through the glass, but that's where we were just now in that previous room there. Trying to look through that mesh into there. But it looks like we're going to strike it lucky and we're going to be allowed to go through anyway. Or maybe not. Maybe there's another access point, but not through here, I'm afraid. This is just the washroom. It's all fascinating to me, this whole place, every room. If walls could speak and all that kind of thing. You can imagine Dickens walking down here from time to time, socialising with the staff, the hired help, and then going back upstairs to be uninterrupted to write. Jackpot. His writing desk. In this room, it all came to life.
He rose from the table and Advancing to the master, basin and spoon in hand, said, somewhat alarmed, he rose to know. Please, sir, I want some more. The master took back. Then he turned. He gazed in stupefied astonishment on the small well beside the side.
One anecdote often shared about this house is how Dickens insisted on absolute order. Everything had its place. If a chair was slightly out of line, it bothered him deeply. That attention to detail, almost compulsive, translated into the vivid precision of his characters and settings. Let's go through there. I just heard Mr. Bumble's name.
More? Mr. Dickens, compose yourself, Bumble, and answer me distinctly. Do I understand that he asked for more? You did, sir, replied Bumble. That boy will be hung, said the gentleman with the white whiskers. I know that boy will be hung.
So what is
Offering a reward of £5 to anybody who would take Oliver Twist off the hands of the parish. In other words, £5 and Oliver Twist were offered to any man or woman who wanted an apprentice at any trade or business.
He has to tell us what.
Yeah, I should ask him.
A piece from Master Humphrey's clock,
Because I got
written
the
in
clothes.
1840.
Depends what.
All my life I have been attached to the inanimate objects that people my chamber. Earliest recollections. It stood upon the staircase at home.
Dickens' dressing room. I'll leave it there in case you want to just pause it and read it. Interesting stuff. He would have been in here many a time, Dickens. Of an evening or morning. For that. The collar that Charles Dickens wore, or was wearing at the time of his fatal collapse. Oh wow. These are the quarters of the man himself. Charles Dickens' bed. I wonder if he ever stood here looking out of the window, thinking about going and doing his walk off to Fleet Street, which is the one we're going to do shortly. Or maybe sat up in bed here in the morning, and that was the view that he would see first thing if he sat up on this side of the bed. Sun shining through on a summer's day. It's funny because talking about walking, Despite all of his discipline indoors, Dickens was equally known for his love of long walks. Walking for him was not just exercise. It was inspiration.
It had to be brought up. So when the Dickenses would have a bath each morning, some poor housemaid would have to lug, I don't know. So baths in those days, this is called a hip bath,
so
because it just comes over your hips.
okay.
And they were smaller.
Right.
And you'd sit in them and you could reach all the extremities. But so this was not unusual.
Yeah.
But it was, because I mean, to fill a normal bath
Oh, yeah, can you
by
imagine?
hand up 4 foot, I mean, just so.
Just, and how hot it would be too in the summer.
Up again. I think now we're approaching the top floor. Yeah, top floor. Yeah, this is going to be servants' quarters, I think. I think when the Dickenses lived at Dougherty Street, they had a small number of servants. I think it was a cook, a housemaid, nursery maid, and a manservant. Some slept in this very room. Decent single bed though. Nice, spacious. I think what most servants are missing from like history books. I think there are letters that help uncover the stories of two, which were Anne Brown and Matilda Butler. You'll be able to find more about them online. Poe would be proud. Quite creepy.
So he comes here, they have to say to Mary, this is the room where one night when they came out to theatre.
So with walking in mind and how much Dickens used to walk, let's follow him. Let us follow in his footsteps. And the walk he would have taken on many occasions, day and night. So, leaving Dougherty Street, Dickens would step out into the bustle of Bloomsbury. In his time, this area was a mixture of respectability and quiet intrigue. Intellectuals, tradesmen, and the occasional eccentric all sharing the same streets. As we walk, imagine Dickens observing everything. The expressions of passers-by, the arguments spilling out of shop fronts, the laughter of children in alleyways. He was a collector of human detail. Nothing escaped him. Before we continue on, I'm just going to take a right onto Northington Street because there's something just up ahead I think you'd like to see. well. The author of The 9 Tailors and Murder Must Advertise. It's another blue plaque moment. And it's where Dorothy Sayers used to live. Lived here 1893, 1957. Writer of detective stories. She lived here just after, well, sometime after Dickens. But in this building, right here. So for any of you Dorothy Sayers fans, it's a little bonus piece, bonus location. She lived and walked, would have walked through that doorway there. And if you want to find it, it's on Great James's Street. Still Bloomsbury area, the street just juxtaposed, just adjacent from Doughty Street. Right, segue complete. Now it's back to continue the Charles Dickens wander from Doughty Street to Fleet Street. And as we know, his walks could stretch for as long as 20 miles. 20 miles in a day or in a night. He was known to walk around at night as well. He believed that walking, exercise, sharpened the mind. And in a city like London, there's always something new to see. On that note, so coming from Dickens's house, which is down on the right hand side, we are now, as he would have done, probably on the other side of the road. That would make sense, being on the side of the road that he would have stepped out onto the pavement he would have come out onto, or sidewalk, should there be any American viewership going on. And I believe this is the route he would have taken. A brisk walk, looking around him, paying attention at all times, and storylines, inspiration from all sorts of areas, all sorts of places, scenes, the creation of which going on in his mind, forever looking for something else to add and create. And I like to think, considering how dangerous London was then, as opposed to how it is now, a different level of danger in different ways, but I would have liked to have thought that Charles Dickens would have fed off that danger, off that anxiety, that panic, that poverty that he felt so passionately about and wanted everyone to know about, that injustice. And that brings us to our first main road, so let's be careful not to get run over. Now I would have liked to have thought that he would have gone down there and left, but it would make more sense to either go through this little garden on Theobald's Road, or more than likely he would have come down here and took a right up ahead. Yeah, so he'd be walking down Theobald's Road, the road off to the left there, Gray's Inn Road, Clerkenwell Road off that way, and then we would turn right down Gray's Inn Road, going this way, the opposite way from Doughty Street. Now there was previously, it says no now, but there was a thoroughfare that you could take through, and then a tunnel that went through these beautiful Georgian terrace buildings, and then out into that garden that we saw just back round the corner to the right. We were unable to take that route today, but still I'd imagine he would have come this way many a time. You can visualise him walking down here, checking his pocket watch, having a reservation at the inn that we're going to go to, going over in his mind the politics of the day and whoever he was going to meet, whether it be a publisher or an acquaintance, to discuss such subject matter, politics that was so relevant then and so important, most of which are still important to this day. Many things they would have discussed back then are still unresolved, especially on a political footing, but we're not going to discuss politics on this channel. We're not a politics channel. As I was saying before, it's good to walk at brisk pace, but also to look around once in a while, especially looking up, and you see these little gems, as we can see there through the gap in the street. Tudor vibes ahead. Look at this. Absolutely outstanding to look at. Beautiful. And that brings us on to High Holborn, another main street here in London. About halfway now. Fleet Street's that way, and that's where we're heading once the bus has been passed. Maybe it took that as a way through back in the day. Maybe not. So I'm going to continue on. I've just gone past Furnivale Street because I don't think he would have taken that street. I could be completely wrong, I understand that, but I think he would have gone straight down this main road and then a right up ahead, which I'll show you in a second. Also, what do you all think? Once I've completed this route, do you think I've kind of gone the right way? Do you have any suggestions as to which route you think you would have gone otherwise? A different road, a different turn? That's another fairly modern looking road around the back. Yeah, I'm going to stick with this. This is the one, as a hunch, feels right to me. Feels good to me. Fetter Lane. I reckon you would have skipped down this road. It's a little road that goes all the way through. It should lead us all the way through to our destination of Fleet Street. So our journey brings us closer and closer to Fleet Street, the historic heartbeat of journalism and printing. Even in Dickens' day, it was alive with ink-stained ambition and probably a lot of noise. And on the subject of poverty and injustice, just stumbled across this. John Wilkes, Member of Parliament, Lord Mayor, 1727, 1797. A champion of English freedom, it says there. I'm sure Dickens would have approved of that as an approach. Now there are some little cut-throughs down the far side on the right, West Harding Street, but we're going to stick to Fetter Lane. So I think this would have been right up his street, literally. And then down beyond, further along, would be Lincoln's Inn Fields, I believe. Royal Courts of Justice around the back on that side, which you would have seen in a previous video, the video on Sweeney Todd, where we went to visit the Seven Stars pub on Carey Street. By all means, go and have a watch of that one. Hope you like it. And now we're approaching Fleet Street. And here we are. Fetter Lane has led us all the way to our destination where we want to be, which is Fleet Street, opposite Mitre Court now. And if you look, always, as I said before, look up and you can see signs there, News Agency, London, all the nods to the journalistic heritage that the street's so famous for, plus many, many other interesting facts as we uncover as we go along. And here we are with a beautiful and encapsulating St Paul's Cathedral in the background. We've reached, tucked away down this little alleyway. It's already getting busy, the old Cheshire Cheese, which I've also visited in a previous video, the Sweeney Todd one, so check that out. Yeah, here we are, if you want to see more, but we're going to go inside. So yeah, rebuilt shortly after the Great Fire of London. This pub was already steeped in history by the time Dickens first walked through its doors. So let's step inside. It feels like we're entering another century entirely.
How are you, Jim? Very well. Hello. Okay. Hey, Harry.
Nice to meet you. Harry.
I'm Steve. Hi there.
Hello. How are you? What's your name, sir? Harry. Nice to meet you. Ollie.
Ollie.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Ollie, you want a cap?
I'd love a cat. Oh,
I got
I
one
normally
in
have
Maybury
stuff
then.
with me and I forgot it. I normally have my frames with all the
newspaper articles in like.
Yeah, I was telling him about that. So.
Now, Dickens wasn't alone in frequenting this place. Many literary figures did. Now, legend has it that Dickens favoured a particular seat in this pub, a somewhat secluded spot, somewhere he could observe without being the centre of attention. It's tempting to imagine him here with a drink in hand, quietly noting the quirks of those around him, the way someone laughed too loudly, or another fidgets with nervousness. And these observations would later find their way into his stories, transformed into unforgettable characters. One charming anecdote about Dickens is how animated he became in these kind of settings when telling his stories aloud. He wouldn't just tell them, he'd perform them. His face, his voice, his gestures, all shifted to embody that of the characters. And in a place like this, especially trying to film, surrounded by eager listeners, you can almost hear the echoes of his voice. But Dickens's relationship with places like this wasn't just social, it was creative. The pub was a stage, a laboratory and a refuge all at once. And yet, there's something else to consider. For all the warmth and camaraderie, Dickens was also deeply aware of all the inequalities of the world around him. On his walks, perhaps even on the very walk that we've done today, he would have passed poverty, hardship and struggle. These contrasts between comfort and desperation are at the heart of his work. So when he sat here in the dim glow of the Cheshire Cheese, he carried with him the entire spectrum of London life. So this walk we've done today, from Dorothy Street down to this historic tavern, isn't just a route on a map. To be honest, that only took us about 22 minutes, something like that. There's so much more than that, especially on a Saturday, which is fairly quiet in London. But it's more for me today a journey through the mind of a writer who saw everything.